My Secular Sobriety is an addiction recovery podcast giving voice to the secular person in recovery. Well, isn't this fun? I finally get to speak with Bobby Cirillo, somebody whose name I haven't even known for about 5 years, but I've known him on Twitter. We follow each other there. And just through happenstance, I happened to connect with him. And I said, we'd love to have you on the podcast because you have an interesting story. And we thought, he said yes. So here he is today. Bobby, how are you?
Hi, John. How are you doing? It's really a pleasure
wonderful.
to be here. They call me Bobby C.
Okay.
First time I came into the meeting, I heard everybody, it was anonymous. So I coined a Bobby C deal, and
okay.
I stick to that. I really like it.
Okay. No
It's
problem.
great to be here, John. Great to meet you.
Well, it's nice to have you. And you're actually beaming in from Huntington, California. Is that right?
Huntington Beach, California, Surf City. Yeah,
it sounds nice.
Yeah,
How is it?
It's very, very, very nice. The weather's great here. Everybody's here because of the weather, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's probably going to be about 70 today.
Oh, beautiful. Now we're in Kansas City. I'm in Kansas City, and it's in the 60s today. So spring is finally coming here. So yeah. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, we get an extra hour of light starting tonight.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. So anyway, we're here. The subject that you thought that might be good to talk about is spirituality and secularism in recovery. So why don't we begin, Bobby, if you don't mind, just giving us a little bit of your background. If you tell us about yourself and how you got into recovery, and then we'll kind of spin into the topic from there. How's that sound?
Sounds good. I usually will blend my story in with the interview.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back and forth with it. Just to let you know, February 27th, 1984, I came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous through, let's see, my wife was going to Al-Anon, and I knew she was probably going to leave for the third time. So I kind of threw fear. And I think that was what they call, I guess they would call that my bottom, but it was through fear. And she was going to Al-Anon, so she had a friend in Al-Anon, and she asked me, she said, I met a friend, and her husband goes to AA. Would you like to speak with him? And that was, if we had to use the word spiritual awakening to describe something, that was my first one, because I said yes to help.
Mm-hmm.
I said yes. And that I consider that's how simple it was back then.
Yeah. So
I said yes. And he came over to my table, and we sat in the house. And he said, would you like to go to a meeting? I said, yeah. And I even told him what the time I'd like to go and what day. I said, how about Sunday? He said, yeah, I got a good meeting on Sunday. And he took me to my meeting. And he's still a friend today. Mm-hmm. I consider him a friend. The sponsor, mentors, call him whatever you want to call him, but he's a friend. He became my friend, and still today, after 36 years, I still consider him a friend. He lives in a different state, but we talk, and we had a lot in common. And I think that was important for me in the beginning. I don't think if I had that, if it would have went any other way, I might not have been attracted to Alcoholics Anonymous. But he wasn't a big book thumper. I didn't go to my first step meeting for about a year. Mm-hmm. I hung around him and went to some meetings, and we had some fun. So cool. That attracted me in the beginning. We'll just stay with the beginning now, and then I'll probably blend in other things as we talk.
Okay.
But that's how it started.
So you didn't really experience any of the harsh dogmatism of AA that some people experience? Anything along those lines?
Not in the, I mean, it was in the rooms.
Yeah.
It was in the rooms.
Yeah.
And I was just lucky my sponsor wasn't one of those type of people.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
But all along my recovery, I don't know why or how, but I was always open,
Yeah.
always open to other things.
Yeah.
So during my years, I would do like one-on-one therapy. I would go to a CODA meeting, Codependency Anonymous meeting. I
Mm-hmm.
would go to an ACOA meeting. I would
Mm-hmm.
meet different people. I would pick up a different book and read some spiritual books. I would
Mm-hmm.
read different types of books. I got into like a Wayne Dreyer, Dr. Wayne Dreyer, who passed
Yep.
away now,
Yep.
early on.
Mm-hmm.
And I even in the very beginning was Anthony Robbins
Mm.
attracted me.
Yeah.
So I think I was open from the beginning,
Sure.
you know, and
I think that's
but
smart. You really you used a lot of resources. I guess they call that recovery capital now. It's all the different resources that we can bring to our recovery. Online
yes,
resources, books, people in our lives, support groups, therapy, gosh, you name it. So you've got quite a bit there.
well, in the beginning, I don't know why, but I was always a uh, thinking, questioning,
Mm-hmm.
observing, becoming aware person.
Yeah.
And I still do that today. I still do that today. You know,
So
this is
tell me,
36. Go ahead,
36
Jeff.
years.
I mean,
That's
this is
pretty.
36 years ago that I
Oh, okay.
started.
That's
So,
pretty damn amazing. It's amazing how time goes by, isn't it? It's like you look back and you
uh,
think, really? 30?
36 years of experience. That's all it is. Just
Yeah.
experience, good experience, and some not so good experience.
Yep. So tell me, what made you decide to have our topic today to be spirituality and secularism in recovery?
Well, I'll tell you why. Uh, you know, don't tell Roger C. And
Mm-hmm.
then Joe C. is, I follow Joe C. I
Mm-hmm.
follow a bunch of you guys. I follow a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of the agnostic and atheist.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I liked Christopher Hitchens. Was it Christopher Hitchens?
Yes, I
I
liked him
liked
too,
it.
actually.
Yeah, I used to listen to him, and I used to Sam Harris. I
Yeah.
like Sam Harris.
Yeah.
I believe Sam Harris is kind of transitioning transitioning over to the spiritual kind of realm and kind of discovering some new things himself.
Isn't that
Like,
interesting? Because he got a degree, was it a doctorate in neurobiology or something along those lines? And from there, he really got interested in spirituality. Kind of diverted from
so
Richard Dawkins in a bit, it seems.
yeah, he has, and I just think that's where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think the stop is the words.
Mm,
Words, words really mess with their heads.
yeah.
You know, like the word spirituality. Me particularly, I mean, I don't like the word God at all.
Yeah.
Okay. Like even when Wayne Dreyer used to talk about God, he used to say he's God. You know, he was God. Uh, I don't like the words because I don't even like the word atheist or
Mm-hmm.
agnostic or
Yeah.
secular or spiritual. The reason why is because if I said I'm spiritual, people only can understand that from their perspective and their
Right.
reference in their brain, in their
Sure.
mind. So
Sure.
they don't know really what I'm thinking or feeling
Right.
or observing or experiencing. So I think when people, that's why I wanted to ask some questions to yourself
Okay.
because, like, what what do you think about in your meeting? Is there spiritual talk in your secular meeting?
Yeah. It's really a personal, it's really a personal thing for each individual. You know, the way I see it is pretty much the way that you described um, language. So for me, spirituality is just it's a way of describing an experience that seems to be deeply personal and emotional and hard and difficult to explain. Uh, and spirituality or spiritual or the language of spirituality kind of allows us to connect with other people in kind of a deep way, in a human way. So I kind of see it like it's almost like music or poetry. Spirituality is it's a way of communicating. It's a language that touches a person in a different way than a clinical type of communication. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I understand that completely. Now, at the same time, it can also be confusing if you don't understand the language. So um, I think what's important, as long as people are speaking, like you said, from your own experience, because it's your understanding, everybody's going to interpret it from their own experience. So to answer your question, there are I'd say it's about 50-50. I would say about half of the people have, for them, spirituality is important. And for others, it's purely just a human connection, however they might want to describe that. It's generally not brought up specifically, spiritual or not spiritual. It's just not brought up. Um, we do read some different materials sometimes that some are very spiritual, like the Alternative 12 Step book, the Alternative 12 Steps, a secular guide to recovery, or something along those lines. That book has a lot of spirituality, spiritual terms in it, and so forth. So I personally have gotten to the point where I can use spiritual terminology for people that prefer that, and I can also just speak totally practical and in practical terms, I guess. But the bottom line is, we're talking about the same thing. We're talking about an experience, and it's
Yeah.
just the way that we're describing it, I think.
Yes. I agree. Yeah, it's almost like, for me, without the word, it's it's like, really, it, it, we can't use a word to
Yeah,
describe it.
yeah,
A word doesn't do it justice.
right.
So it kind of gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, if we wanted to use, I feel this is very spiritual, what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing right this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I
Mm-hmm.
like to use the word, I mean, they're using the word consciousness now,
Right.
conscious, awareness, awakening,
Mindfulness.
enlightenment,
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness mindfulness. The word mindfulness is getting real big now with uh, many of the other alternative programs,
And
even
people might think
secular.
that people might consider that spiritual, and I might consider that very practical, the practice of mindfulness.
Would you tend to think that meditation would help in
I
mindfulness in
think
a way?
so.
Yeah,
And
so do
I think meditation is practical.
I
Yeah.
do too. Well, I think it's scientifically proven now that meditation does help the immune system and
Yeah.
helps the body.
And the experience of it and the benefits that you get from it are such too that it to you can relate it to a person more deeply, I think, um, by using whatever language is more comfortable to you. I mean, I used to go to a group where we would meditate together, and it was always a good experience because people would always have a different take on what happened. Some people were like zoning out, where they didn't have thoughts. I was more like watching my thoughts kind of drift by. Some people were frustrated in their attempts to meditate, but it was really interesting, to do that with other people. And
Very.
I learned from other people, you know.
I agree. I've always said that like the newcomer in the room, I would say when you're listening, you're meditating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're staying silent and trying to put your attention, direct your attention into one direction. And I believe listening, is a skill in itself. And I think that's part of meditation, listening.
I agree. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and she was talking about the power of pausing, to not just react, but to pause before you react to something. Like if somebody cuts you off in traffic, hit the pause button, and think that, oh, I've done that before, or maybe there's something tragic that happened in his life and he just wasn't paying attention today. I don't have to react negatively to it. It's something that requires a lot of work. And she told me that what helps her is meditating. She doesn't necessarily meditate every day. She tries to meditate as much as she can, but doing it on a regular basis helps her, become aware to hit the pause button.
Yeah, I kind of look at everything almost, what are we doing right now? Me and you
Mm-hmm.
talking. I'm pausing while you're talking so I can listen.
Yes.
I'm trying not to think of the things that I'm going to say, but put my attention into your voice and listening. Now, that takes a long time to practice.
It does. And listening is the best gift we could give someone. And it is, in my opinion, the greatest, probably the best asset that one might find in a AA meeting, is that you can talk and people aren't going to talk back at you. They're going to listen, you know, and that
It's,
is a gift.
well, learn to listen, listen to learn,
Yep.
learn to listen, listen to learn. I heard that years ago, and I'm still practicing it.
I am too. Sometimes I'm better than others. What was an education to me in listening was when I started podcasting, because I would edit the episode, right, and I would listen to the conversation so carefully during the editing process, and I would catch myself. It's like, wow, I didn't even hear the
Yeah,
guy say that, and I asked him the same damn question twice, or why didn't I ask him about that,
yeah,
or
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like I
yeah,
just wasn't listening. I just
yeah,
wasn't. I was thinking about
yeah,
the interview itself, or what was I going to ask next, or something along those lines, instead of
yeah.
really listening to the person.
That's the great thing that we're still trying, learning,
Yeah.
experiencing.
But I can
We're
take that skill out into the real world, and it helps me in all kinds of ways. In my relationships, it helps me at work. It's really a valuable skill. I've gotten a lot better at it over the last couple of years. Not where I want to be, but yeah, it's really it's a valuable tool to use in our recovery for ourselves and for others.
Yeah, and it's something that we the simple things we always want the bigger things.
Mm-hmm.
We always want more and more of the bigger things because I think they're doing it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the simple things that I find are the hard things, especially in recovery. We don't want to do simple seems to be boring, you know.
Yeah.
But repetition of simple ideas and things repetitiously practiced, I think we're missing that. This helps me with my grandchildren.
Mm.
I have a granddaughter 22, 21. I have a grandson 18. Another granddaughter is going to be 16. I have a little grandson that's 9. So it helps me to just sit there and listen, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm really working on that with my
Mm-hmm.
grandkids. So the
Well,
word secular, John,
yeah.
what uh, what would you what would the definition? What would you think? what was your definition of secular?
I would say secular is just apart from religion, apart from theism. It's just, and I guess that's it. Secular would be like if you're going to have a secular meeting, then you're not going to pray. I would say because a prayer is assuming that other people share, that everybody shares the same faith, and having a secular format it would make it more comfortable and inclusive for people of all faiths or no faith. So I think being secular is like the way that they intended our government to be, having separation of church and state. You know,
Exactly.
yeah, letting people be free to
Mm-hmm.
practice whatever they want. So in other words, if you're in a secular meeting, you're free to talk about God and spirituality all you want. It's just that the room itself, the format of the meeting itself is secular, so it's not presuming that everybody has that same understanding.
I like that separation of church and state, which doesn't go on in the.
No, not really, does it?
No, no, I agree with that, and that's very simplistic for me. Like I said before, definitions are what do I define it as? So what do you
Hmm.
define it as? So
Hmm.
I would define it the same way. If I'm going to start at that secular AA meeting, and
Hmm.
I went to one, and the lady gave me her format and kind of directed me, and she I think she uses the big tent. What is it?
Yeah,
The
more and
one
more
big
people are
tent.
starting to use that. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
I'm not going to use it.
You're not? Okay.
No.
What do you think you're
Uh,
going to do?
you know what? I don't know. I wanna let it evolve.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let it happen, but it's going to be a little different.
Yeah.
And you know, so I've started the. Well, let's stick with that secular to me. Yeah, it's free from religion.
Hmm.
I'd like to keep it that simple.
Yeah.
Free
It's
from
not
religion.
necessarily anti anything. It's
No,
not anti religion or anything.
no.
It's just that it creates a safe space for people who are religious or spiritual to have the freedom to express that, but to express it as only their experience, not on the presumption that it's everybody's experience. And it also gives freedom for the person who doesn't have a belief to share their experience without the presumption that they have to believe along with everybody else.
Yeah,
It just gives you kind of a safe space, I think, a safe, safe ground.
I
What I
like that.
find is that when you have that, like you were asking me about my group and how people are spiritual or not spiritual, it's like it doesn't even come up. It doesn't even, it's hard to even know who might be because it's just nobody makes an issue out of it one way or the other. So and the way that I hear things, if someone is talking about meditation or uh, I'm not really thinking about it as a spiritual thing. But so yeah, it's how it's all in the interpretation of the person hearing it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Definition. We create our own definitions.
We
We
do,
can.
don't we?
Yeah,
We
we
do.
can. We're allowed. Just like uh, I we're allowed to create our own purpose in life.
Mhm.
We don't have to be told what our purpose is, and I like that freedom. I mean, I discovered a lot of freedom by going to AA, and I feel like they were trying to take a lot of freedom from me.
Mm.
Regular Alcoholics Anonymous meeting.
Mhm.
Uh, I I refused to give my will and my life over to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
I never did it. I never will. Give
Right.
my life and my. I'm not going to trade my sobriety for my freedom
Mhm.
of will
Mhm.
and consciousness. And so I decided a long time ago not to do that.
Yeah.
And I was okay, and I wasn't ashamed to say it. really,
Mm-mm.
you know.
I have
And
a
so,
friend who tells me it's impossible to do that anyway, to give up your will.
yeah, yeah. In other
I
words,
mean,
it's
because you're a human being and you have to take action. You have you have to take responsibility for your life and for your recovery.
who drove you there? I
Yeah.
mean, who actually took you there? You
Right.
know, you got in the car, you made a decision, you got in the
Right.
car, you went to the meeting. And
Absolutely.
I think that's lacking. That's why these other secular smart recovery,
Mhm.
I too, I know you said that you were kind of taking
I am.
some of the
I'm
courses
about
and
a third of the way through. Mhm.
yeah, working through the facilitator program. And I host a smart recovery meeting. I love it. I
Do
mean,
you?
I love doing it.
Can you
I
tell me a little
just,
bit about that, what the meeting's like, and how the people interact with each other? And
it's like smart is like, well, this is what I get out of it. I can create a meeting. All meetings can be different, just like secular meeting can be different from traditional Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. We can run our meetings differently. Some do more board work, some do more group, some do more of whatever the facilitator would like to do. I mean, you run it through smart, but you can make it your own, and
mm-hmm.
I like that. Uh, we do a little bit of board work, but most of all, we do check-ins. We go around. We're allowed to do. When we do check-ins, we're going around and we're asking if anybody has a pressing issue they'd like to talk about, or something that's bothering them, or something great that happened to them this week. Let us know, and we'll get back to you. Okay, so we do the check-in, and as people tell us some things, it creates the agenda and creates the discussion. So the discussion evolves. We don't create it; it comes out of the group,
Okay.
and I'm attracted to that. I really like that, and I like it because all addiction behaviors, all addictive behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
we're not just with alcohol, we're with
Yeah.
gambling, sex, food, uh, all
Yeah,
different.
and Smart welcomes all of those. So when you're at the meeting, does the conversation, is it just like a natural conversation, people speaking back and forth, or is it just like you go around the room, one person at a time?
No, you first check in, you go around the room,
Right.
then you'll pull a topic. Then somebody will say, you know what, I'd like to have 5 minutes to share after the check-in. So they start, and we ask them after they share. We ask them, would you be open to feedback? And they'll say yes or no, but most of them will say, yeah, I like feedback.
Cool.
I like to know. Now we'll get feedback.
From
Let's
everybody in the room, from all the people. Cool.
anybody, and they don't raise their hand. They just naturally share.
Right.
The thing is that I guide the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like a guide, like if you do a meditation session, I guide the meeting. I
Right.
directed it. I move it.
Mm-hmm.
I watch out for different types of things that are going to happen with
Mm-hmm.
that crosstalk, so it
Mm-hmm.
kind of gently comes back. So, I mean, that takes a little bit of skill, you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
I know you have that skill. I know that for a fact.
Well, I don't know, but yeah, I think the training in Smart is pretty good, and I'm only a third of the way through. But I believe that when I'm done with the actual training, there's a option of actually participating in, some meetings.
There's a host. You can be 101. The 101 host,
Uh-huh.
you can help with the meeting.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
buddy up and help.
Yeah.
The 102 host, you can start your own meeting.
Okay.
Then there's the facilitator,
Okay.
which just gives a little more in depth. And
Yeah.
it's more or less more of an ongoing study guide.
Yeah.
But like when we've been in recovery for so long that it comes natural to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I have to say it comes natural to us. So we really make good hosts and facilitators. There's a couple drawbacks, and we could talk about that on another program or something, but I don't want to get into really too much of the downside, because I could, maybe another podcast we could do some, because I believe everybody wants, as soon as you mention something, like Ben talks about bashing AA. I don't believe in that. I believe the truth can set us free. So people tend to say, well, you're speaking negative. I say, well, I'm speaking reality. This is real. This is really going on. And I think there's a need to pass this on. Out of that negative comes positive.
Yeah, I'm telling him that, because I share that. I don't want to come across as someone who is bashing or thinks something or is negative about something. But at the same time, I want to be honest about whatever experience I had, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not bashing. It's not, could be criticism, I suppose. But heck, there are things about myself I could criticize, that should be criticized, that people have criticized, It's
constructive criticism.
Yeah. I love the fellowship. I love it. And I can still criticize something I love.
Yeah, we'll get maybe another day we could get into really a little deeper. But where were we at? We're with Smart. I think we were with Smart, right?
Yeah. We're just finishing up with Smart. You said that there were some drawbacks, but you didn't want to go into that.
And then Smart. I love Smart. It's cool. We get about 12 people. It just started. This is about the 5th meeting, and it's on a website, so it's kind of getting popular. So, and there's not a lot of them in our location.
Yeah.
So it makes it very attractive.
Yeah.
I'd like to go right into the Dharma Recovery Dharma, just for a little bit.
Now that used to be called Refuge Recovery, is that right?
Right.
Why did they change their name?
You know what? Let's not even go into that.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Because not now.
Okay, I just got curious.
No, we can go into all this stuff in the podcast.
Okay.
Because it all ties in.
Okay.
So if I talk about why, I could tie it into all the different programs.
Okay.
Instead of one.
Right.
But recovery. Let's just say
Dharma.
it's a good thing.
Okay.
And I had a choice to make, and it only took me a day to make the choice. Because I searched, seeking you shall find. So I searched and I looked at the websites and checked some reviews and people talking, blah, blah, blah. And I made a quick decision. And I went with the Recovery Dharma. Beautiful. I mean, like just on this one little opening, there's so many things that attract me, but just on this little opening of Dharma, Recovery Dharma, we understand that this is not the only path to recovery.
Yeah.
And many may choose to combine these practices with other recovery programs. I mean, that's just one sentence, but the whole thing is like that. It's really, it's beautiful. I had my first meeting last night at 6:30.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no one showed.
Oh no.
But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It just got posted in their website.
Okay.
And this is going to be the first Recovery Dharma in this area. So it's going to take a while. But
I have a friend who leads up the Dharma Recovery here in Kansas City, and he loves it. And I actually did a podcast with him a couple years ago, and I found that I liked the book, and I liked the concept, and I just thought it was a marvelous thing. I thought it was just great. I'm glad that we have that option.
Yeah, it's super nice. It's very nice. Yeah, it even says that, the practice is meditation, self-inquiry, wisdom, compassion, and community. I mean, it's very simplistic. I like it. And then it's the same as, for me, any program I go to, I take what I want and leave the rest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this allows me to create my own program. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like I did in AA. I
Mm-hmm.
created my own program years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I used to change words, delete. If you see my big book, I mean, I deleted. I got this big book here.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the stuff I sketched out stuff, I
Yep.
crossed out stuff, I rewrote stuff, I changed things years ago. I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in the freedom.
Sure.
I'm not a fanatic in
Yeah.
any one
Right.
thing.
Right.
Uh, I'm very careful of fanaticism.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate in that way. Where were we going now, John?
Well, is there anything else you wanted to say about Dharma recovery?
Not right now. We could do another
Okay.
thing on that.
Okay.
But Dharma is really, I'm very attracted to it. Just the
Mm-hmm.
readings in there. It seems like it's going to fit
Yeah.
my need with the smart, with the secular, with the, to kind of
Yeah.
blend them in to make my
Yeah.
own.
Do you kind of consider yourself a secular Buddhist? Or is that would you describe yourself that way?
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
I don't label myself anymore with
Oh, okay.
any
There you
any
go.
any 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 titles.
Okay.
You could just uh, label me whatever you want
Oh
at that
man, that
particular
is so
moment.
smart. You're so smart. You know, that that's the way to be. I actually I actually told somebody at the beginning of the year, they were asking me if I'm this or that. And I said, you know what? I don't want to put any label on myself. But sometimes I can't help it, you know.
Oh, you have to.
But
You have to
but you're
say,
so
yeah.
smart not to. Because honestly, I have changed and evolved so much over the last 30 some years that I've been in recovery. And what I believe and think and do today could be completely different tomorrow or next week.
Exactly.
And I'm a little bit of,
Exactly.
I bring a little bit of everything with me that I've learned along the way.
Yes, you do. Yes, you
So,
do. I'll tell you. I'm gonna have to say it to the listeners. What you're doing, you're on the ground floor of the beginning of the future of all the generations
mm,
of recovery. I I know it. I don't have to guess it or think it.
yeah.
I know it. I know you are. And
Well,
that's
there's a
why
lot
I'm
of
so,
people. It's amazing the people online that I have met over the last 5 years who are, I would call them like pro-choice recovery. It's like mix and match what works for you. It's take advantage of all, like you were describing, all the different tools, the books, the meetings, the therapies. You know, we have more available today than we have in a long time, and we have the mechanism now to connect with each other and pass on all these different ideas. So it's a great time, I think, to be in recovery.
oh, it is. Look at that. Half an hour's gone by already.
Yeah.
It's amazing. How about if, let's see, we were with the Dharma, we did the smart. Let's, let me go into a little bit of, you know what? I was watching that cognitive dissonance.
Oh, okay. That'll be
Ever,
interesting.
I mean, you've heard of it, right? I mean, you
Yes,
know what cognitive,
now is that the podcast?
no.
No.
Cognitive dissonance is what I went through for years and
Yeah, I
years
know
and
what it is. That's
years.
like a disconnect, right?
Exactly. Okay. The state of attitude, let's see, the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, especially as related to behavior decisions and attitude change. In Alcoholics Anonymous, for so many years, I was in cognitive dissonance because they were telling me something, and it was almost like I'd read a couple other pages and it would be how do you say, different than what I just read.
Right. Right.
And then it was completely different than what I was thinking and
Right.
believing.
Right.
So it led me in a state of the negative feelings of cognitive dissonance is discomfort,
Mm-hmm.
tension, shame, anxiety, and guilt.
Mm-hmm.
And I had all those things during years and years in Alcoholics Anonymous. And each time I kind of peeled an onion off of the freedom for myself, to thine own self be true, they talk about. I think a lot of people talk about eventually I had to stop being hypocritical and
Mm-hmm.
start being true to myself, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that's a biggie.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day who described cognitive dissonance that he experienced, and it was this. He he went to AA and he was told that he had character defects, and that didn't match up with what he heard from his family and loved ones and friends who've known him for years. And there was that disconnect that on one hand, people are telling me that, I have these qualities, these defects, and yet that's not what my family is reporting to me, the people who know me best. And he really had a hard time establishing a relationship with these people who were relating to him as if he was a person with these defects. That was his cognitive dissonance, and I thought that was really interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. It could,
It didn't match
it's
up for
deep.
him.
No, it doesn't, actually, it doesn't match up for anybody that leaves. That's
Yeah,
why they leave. That's why they leave, because of this
yeah,
discomfort.
yeah,
It's a disturbing discomfort in the body. It's a feeling.
yeah.
It's an
It
emotion.
bothered him.
Yeah.
He
Well,
thought about it though. He had to think about it. I think the
but
thing with me is I never thought about that. It never
but
occurred to me.
but you did make the break,
Yes, I did eventually.
and we make the break because we set ourselves free from that bondage of that feeling. So
Yes, you're right. I did
we tend
experience that in the end, that
we
cognitive
tend
dissonance.
we move. It's almost we have to survive and to grow.
It is about being true to yourself and your own beliefs and your own ideas, isn't it? And speaking your own truth. That's what it is.
Uh,
And if you
uh,
can't do that, it's like a prison.
exactly, it's a prison, and repetition of words is the basic form of brainwashing.
Mm,
I
mm.
mean, it's true. I mean, that's how do you think the TV commercials work?
Right, exactly. They do. I
Yeah,
think I remember I read a book somewhere that in an ad you have to say something like 12 times or whatever the same thing.
yeah. That's why they read how it works over and over
Yeah,
again, and
yeah,
more about alcoholism and the preamble. It's a it's to get the whole object, no matter what. I believe. I'll get into a little bit of like Ben would call a little bit of bashing.
okay.
Okay, I'm just going to get some reality checks to what my life was like with Alcoholics Anonymous. Is that this is what I believe today. I don't know if it's true or not. This is what I believe today. It's not true for other people, but it's true for me.
Hmm.
That they spirituality, the word spirituality is in the big book a lot. I mean, there is,
Yeah.
but I believe it was put in there to hijack me, to get me to God.
Mm,
It was almost a hook,
yeah.
you know. I'm going to
Yeah.
hook you, but eventually, you know, even you agnostics and atheists, I'm going to get you sooner or later.
Yeah.
Okay. And the only way for you to have this spiritual awakening, there's only one way, and that's to take you to the end of that
Yeah.
12 steps.
Yep.
And then you'll have your spiritual awakening.
Yep.
Like I said in the very beginning, I had my first spiritual awakening when I said yes before I even went into Alcoholics Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I felt that was my spiritual awakening
Mm-hmm.
when I said yes to help.
Yep.
In the big book, I remember they used to give things out, little stickers out, and they're
Mm-hmm.
proud of it actually.
Mm-hmm.
And it says that let's see, the word God in the big book. Well, the big book. We talk about the big book. It's only what 164
Right.
pages.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the big book, not the stories. That's not the big book.
Right.
That's just stories. So God is mentioned 136 times in the big book. Higher, 3, power, 82, and higher power 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But that was given to me years ago. You know? Okay, that's enough
I know.
about that.
I'll just tell you though, what bothers me about that, it's the book. Because the people who wrote the book were writing for that particular time and the experience they had at that particular time. And the main guy who wrote that book, Bill Wilson, evolved after that. He wasn't the same guy in 1965 as he was in 1939. But people are stuck with the same damn book from 1939. And that
Well,
was like over 80 years ago.
well,
That drives me
hey,
crazy.
am I supposed to take a doctor's opinion that's 80 years ago?
No,
Okay,
no,
so I
it's
got
crazy.
one doctor telling me what I have.
Right. Now that's the
First
biggest
of all,
problem they got to fix.
first of all, who whoever diagnosed me with this so-called disease?
Yeah.
It's supposedly a self-diag. We can get into that another
Yeah.
whole.
That's another interesting topic
Well, you
too.
know
Yeah.
what? I mean, that's the top. These are topics that should be debated about,
Yeah.
spoken about, talked
Yeah.
about, that are taboo.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the terminology does keep people from recovery because, like, I was talking to somebody who had a difficult time with the label alcoholic. He didn't know if he quite fit it. You know, he would listen to speakers at some of these AA meetings and they didn't seem to match with his experience of what an alcoholic would be. And he asked himself, do I belong there? You know? And it's like you said, why even put the label on yourself anyway?
Well, we don't
Stop
put it
drinking?
on it. They put it on us. They put it
Yeah.
on us as soon as the day we come in. They,
Yeah.
I say, to society. It's not people. It's not the people, but
Yeah.
it's the society's hierarchy. I would say.
Yeah.
Uh, I believe so. If I don't call myself alcoholic today, then I'm not an alcoholic. So you don't consider me an alcoholic. I don't have a disease. I don't have
Hmm.
alcoholism.
Yeah. I'm not
So you
drinking.
really don't fit into the program, right? Because you don't say you're an alcoholic just
Right.
by a word.
Yeah.
Just by a word. Don't
Right.
know my story. You don't know my story. You don't know where I was and where I am today.
Right.
Or in this disease concept, you don't know
Yep.
what I went through when I was a kid. So I don't
Yep.
call myself an alcoholic today. So
Yep.
I don't fit into somebody's definition.
Right. Yep. Well, we've gone for about 48 minutes now.
Yeah.
You
What do you
think we
have?
should?
40 minutes? That's about it, don't you? 40 minutes.
Usually what I do, but you know, if you have some more to talk about, we can. There's no reason you need to stop now.
Oh, well, how about you, John? What do you want to bring up?
Well, I don't
Ask.
know. I think that I just think that this has been a really interesting discussion. I like the idea, first of all, you know, when you started off and you talked about all the different things that you have done as part of your recovery, the books, the therapy, the different programs. I like the fact that you're still doing that today. You know, you're starting a smart recovery group, you're doing Dharma Recovery, you're doing a secular AA meeting. I think that's important for people to know that you can mix and match all kinds of different tools. You don't have to put yourself in a silo that you're only in SMART or you're only in Life Ring or you're only in AA. Mix and match, do whatever you want. You know, that is the power of being in recovery today, I think, is that you can do that. You have the freedom to do that. So that's really important. I also liked what you had to say about, you know, what spirituality is. And it really is dependent upon the person who it's really dependent upon a person's own experience with it. what spirituality is to me is different than what spirituality might be to you or someone else. It's all, the way I see it is it's like poetry, and it's so personal that it really is kind of hard to explain. So I thought that was really interesting. And just looking at some of the practical aspects of, practicing, mindfulness and pausing and paying attention and listening, and how important that is, you know, um, that's something I need to do better with my wife, as a matter of fact, of listening. You know how many times she tell me something and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been a really great conversation.
Oh,
I've really
oh,
enjoyed it.
I've been married. I've been married 48 years
Oh wow.
to the same one. I met my wife in ninth grade.
Oh man, isn't that
Yeah,
wonderful?
we're still together.
Congratulations.
She's been. I want to say thanks to my wife, my daughters, my
Yeah.
grandchildren, my mother, my sister, my brother, my family. I like to say thanks to them because they were the ones actually that I'm where I am because in the beginning they they kind of put a little fire under my butt,
Mm-hmm.
especially my
Mm-hmm.
wife. If it wasn't for her, I give credit to my wife. If it wasn't for her having the courage and the
Yeah.
strength to do what she did, I wouldn't be able to be where I am today. So I have to give credit to these these people that had unconditional love towards me.
Yeah.
Everybody always wants to give credit to God or AA
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of forget their spouses and their
I
loved
know.
ones. My mom's 99. I talk to her twice, once a day. Call her. She's 99 years old. Do
Yeah.
we have a moment for me to give a little promo for my? Do we have a moment?
Absolutely. Uh-huh. Please.
Okay. What I started was what I'm starting is a center. I went over to in here in Fountain Valley, which is right next to Huntington Beach, California, and I asked this center. It's called Step House Recovery Center. I walked in and knocked on their door, and I said, "Would you be open? Do you have space that I could have a meeting here?" And they said yes. So that's when my wheels started to turn because that's my whole concept was to find a space where I can create alternative programs without because around my area there's so many clubs, AA clubs all over. Orange County is the mecca of recovery,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I've heard
So,
that.
but I want to create a center that has all variations of modalities in
Mm-hmm.
recovery. The people could come to one place and they could come to this meeting. Maybe they could come to two. Maybe they could go to an AA meeting and then come back to a Dharma. Maybe they can go to a Smart. I'm going to start a Life Ring too. I'll start a
Yeah.
Life Ring over there. But at Step House Recovery over in Fountain Valley, anyone can look it up. But I have a meeting there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday so far.
Great.
And we could get into later, maybe on a different podcast, a new concept I've been thinking of,
Oh,
and maybe talk about that.
okay. Well, that you've piqued my interest already.
Yeah, yeah. I would love to come back anytime you
Oh
would
yeah, we'll
invite
have
me
you
back.
back.
Yeah, and tell
Absolutely.
tell Ben I missed him
We're going to talk again. I think Saturday. Is it this coming Saturday, right? You're
this
going to
coming
be.
Saturday.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think I'm going to invite Ben to come on that one with us, so
Okay.
you can meet him.
And that's just going to be audio.
Audio only, right?
But
So
I heard you mention about, oh well, uh, this new podcast, My Secular Recovery, is kind of a little slow compared to the AA Beyond
yeah,
Belief. But I'll tell you what, stick with it. You
yeah.
are on to something great, and I would
Well,
love to be part of it. Love to.
well, you are. You know what's funny though? I do this because I just love it. I just love
I know you
podcasting.
do. I know
I
you
just
do.
absolutely love it. But I do know that um, even though I love it, there's something good that's coming out of it. So that makes it even better, you know. So if this thing takes off or not, it doesn't matter. As long as I'm getting something out of it and a few people are getting something out of it, that's a success, you know.
Well, I
So
have, and another thing is too. there's another agenda, hidden agenda I have for doing all these different recovery modalities is because I have grandchildren.
Yes,
And
yes.
and somebody's kid out there might not want to go to AA.
That's right.
Okay. So I want a nice safe haven for maybe my grandchildren or the next generation to be able to
Yeah.
go to, feel safe without being forced, court mandated, because that's all
Right.
being changed now.
That is
That's
actually,
all
yeah.
being changed, yeah.
Yep.
Without being court mandated to particular Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah.
All right, John.
Well, let me play us out with our outro music, if I can remember the right button to press. There it is.
Thank you, John, so much. I loved it. I had a marvelous time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Bobby. It's been a lot of fun every week. And next week, we're going to be speaking with another Californian. His name is Gabe Rosales, and he is an interesting guy. He is a recovery advocate, a musician, and he's just got a really interesting story. So I look forward to speaking with him next week as well. So thank you for listening, and thank you, Bobby. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. Bobby C. signing out.
All right, Bobby.
Bye-bye.